my name is Maddie. I am the artistic director of Sandbox. Michaela and Kayla, the directors, couldn't be here tonight. I'm filling in. This is Climate Follies. Yay! There is going to be a brief talk back after the show with the creator of Climate Follies and an eco-therapist. So if you would like to stick around in person or online, that will be happening. Enjoy the show.
Deck chairs. Two people enter the stage carrying chairs. They set them down and start reading, relaxing, etc., as they are on a cruise vacation. Warning sirens go off.
Everyone, this is your captain. We seem to have struck an iceberg and it tore a hole in our hull.
Hole in our hull. That doesn't sound good.
He did say scene.
True.
A and B go back to reading, relaxing. Siren continues. Offstage voices of distress begin.
This is your captain again. I repeat, there is a hole in our hull.
Sounds poetic. Hole in our hole.
You would say that. Always the artist.
Well, I say hell with the hole in our hole.
That's right, the hell with it.
Hell with the hole in our hole.
Hell with the hole in our hole.
Hell with the hole in our hole. Hell with the hole.
This is your captain again. Please proceed calmly to the lifeboats.
Okay, that doesn't sound good.
Pretty sure proceed calmly usually means it's time to panic.
A and B, however, still sit there, shaking their heads to each other, as the sound of offstage distress among fellow passengers continue.
There is still time if you move now.
Fearmonger.
Crybaby.
They eye each other. Reluctantly, they move away from their seats. They look at their deck chairs. Screams are heard off stage as a siren continues. Screams and sobbing increase. The screams and sobs fade.
Perfect storm. Two TV show anchors, telegenically perfect Jen and Ned, watch a screen describing a horrific wildfire in Australia.
Oh my, Ned. Look at that kangaroo.
Hopping away is just going to make that fire worse, Jen.
Fanning the flames for sure, Ned. Can we slow that down and get a replay of that poor fleeing animal? I'm sure our viewers will appreciate it.
If you're just joining us, you're watching Perfect Storm, the show that takes you inside the extreme weather movement that is taking the Earth by, storm!
Today, we are witnessing a wildfire reach the point of no return.
It's the largest in Australia's history.
The drought, record-breaking heat, and extraordinary winds are conspiring to bring about this disaster.
Jen, this just in. Looks like we've got an exclusive interview with the fire, thanks to our on-the-ground correspondent, Fred.
Good day, mates. I have with me here Vic, short for Eastern Victoria, the site of this breathtaking disaster. Welcome, Vic.
I am the scourge, the death foe, the wherewithal.
No doubt. At present, the authorities say you are out of control. What's your take on that?
It is true, I cannot be contained.
Some say you are the most destructive bushfire in history, busting even the Black Saturday and Ash Wednesday events.
I make my own weather physics. My fire is so hot it creates a pyrocumulonimbus phenomenon. I am the envy of all wildfires, past and future.
Well, there you have it. Jen and Ned,
Die, human, die!
This just in, Jen. Hurricane Dexter, whom we've been keeping our eye on all week, has reached a new level of intensity.
This storm surge is one of the most dramatic I've ever seen, Ned.
You said it, Jen. What a powerful impact it has made on the North Carolina coast. Coming into this, nobody thought Hurricane Dexter would have traveled this far, let alone this strong. Really something special.
True. Dexter was all but counted out of the running, and now we see the pundits were wrong.
Not the first time, Jen. Looks like our man on the ground, Fred, has Dexter by his side. Fred?
Light on Fred, humbled by extreme weather in the form of a hurricane named Dexter.
howdy y'all. I've got Dexter right here. Dexter, everyone said you would lose energy as you traveled up the eastern seaboard, but here you are, just as fierce and powerful as when you originated in the Atlantic days ago. How do you explain this?
Fred, thanks for having me. I don't listen to the experts, I just do what I do. But this isn't about my stamina or whatever. The ocean is warmer than before, the winds are stronger, and with sea level rise, the coast is ever closer to civilization. So it's a team effort here, Fred.
What do you say to the poor people who are right now being hammered by your Category 4 winds?
It's nothing personal.
Meteorologists claim another, even more powerful hurricane, Elaine, is not far behind and may hit a Category 5 force. What do you think about that?
Well, without getting into any details, I've known Elaine for quite some time, and she is the most powerful storm I have ever known. But you never know what'll happen until game time.
Wise words from a massive storm.
Better get inside, Fred.
Back to you, Ned and Jen.
Thanks, Fred, and stay safe.
Fred has one of the most dangerous jobs ever.
That's right, Ned. We just sit here and watch TV and talk about what we see.
If you're just joining us, you're watching Perfect Storm, the show that takes you inside extreme weather events. What are we looking at now, Jen? At a glacier?
Wait for it. Wait for it.
A giant chunk of ice is poised to collapse.
Ned, we hear about the melting ice, but this is really something to behold.
You said it, Jen. I'd go so far as to remark it as a privilege to have a front row seat, so to speak, at this massive ecological shift.
Shifts, Ned. We are watching history unfold.
And our futures unravel.
Don't go soft on me, goodbye.
An exclusive, Jen. We have a special guest, Perito Moreno, glacier in Argentina. Just to give our viewers some perspective here, that ice chunk we're eyeing is the size of Manhattan.
Fred, can you hear us?
Sure thing, Jen and Ned. Buenos dias. I'm standing here, more or less, with Perito Moreno, a glacier who's seen a lot of change over the years. Haven't you, Perito?
Change is inevitable, inexorable even.
Glaciers are sure an endangered ecosystem around here.
Tourists visit, wanting a glimpse of me before I die. They wield their binoculars and cameras and applaud when sections of me break off and fall into the water. Selfies of their own demise, selfies of their own demise, selfies of their own demise.
Benito swirls around Fred.
Ned? Jen?
Thank you, Fred.
Stay safe.
Well, Ned, time for us to pass the baton.
That's right, Jen. Here it is at the top of the hour and time for my second favorite show. Sexiest hurricanes, hottest droughts.
Happy trail. A wire is stretched across the otherwise bare stage. From stage right, Bill moves onto the stage, hand over hand, suspended as if from a great height. His clothes are a mess, having fled a catastrophe of some sort. He looks down, fear fills him. He starts moving again. From stage left, Joe moves onto the stage, hand over hand, heading right for Bill. Joe is similarly clothed in tattered blackened clothing. Both men are emaciated, starving. They stop center stage, dangling.
Well, Hello.
Hi there. Where are you coming from?
Danville.
Danville. How is Danville?
On fire. You?
Plainfield.
That's 10 miles.
As the crow flies. Or the electrical wire stretches.
How's it there?
Same.
Actors dangle, do pull-ups to relieve their exhausted arms.
Look on the bright side. Could still be electricity coursing through these wires.
Put us out of our misery.
They dangle and eye each other.
Do you happen to have anything to eat?
No.
Because it's been a long time
Me
since...
too. I'd rather you didn't talk about it.
So? You want to get past me?
The men edge closer. As they pass by each other, lots of animal sounds of whimpers and quiet growls. Once on the other side, they eye each other. They howl again, even more bereft. Howls taper to silence. They begin moving in slow motion, eyeing each other.
Pearly recycled gates. Gateway to heaven, aka the pearly gates. St. Peter, a tablet in his hand, stands by the gates. A man approaches, Baxter, in his 70s. Baxter looks around in wonder and fear, then realizes where he is. Heaven's Gate. He approaches St. Peter with confidence.
Hello. Boy, it is surely good to be here.
Greetings. Your name?
Charles Nolan Baxter, from the great city of Omaha, Nebraska. St. Peter, that is who you are, right? St. Peter.
Correct, Mr. Baxter. Let's see.
What?
Oh my.
What's wrong?
Doesn't look good, Mr. Baxter.
What do you mean? I led a most exemplary life. Married to the same woman for over 40 years. Never cheated, never drank, never hurt anyone.
True enough.
I was named Man of the Year by the Omaha Commission on Philanthropy.
That is mentioned here among other impressive accolades.
So what could possibly be the problem?
Your carbon emissions were considerably over the acceptable limit.
My carbon emulsion?
Your metrics are egregious. Home energy use was profligate. Heating, cooling, you even resisted the transition to LEDs.
My wife didn't like the color they cast.
When it comes to food, my, you do like your steaks, don't you?
So? Lots of people do.
And transportation.
I had to fly a lot for work. Sorry.
The Hummer.
It was about safety and patriotism.
And the jet ski. Really, sir.
I deserved a little fun out of life.
And over 5,600 hours of operation for your gas-powered leaf blower?
Can it be that many?
Did you really need 5 children?
I wanted a boy.
Sure took a long enough time to get one.
God could have ponied up for one earlier.
A valid point. However, your dogs.
My dogs?
Shap, Dutch, Tango.
I know who my dogs are.
Dogs have a significant carbon footprint.
I loved my dogs.
Everybody does, and dog backwards is God, but these days the carbon footprint is of paramount importance.
A celestial choir hums in the background.
It was back in the late 1800s we began to understand how carbon pollution would heat up the atmosphere, but it wasn't until the 1960s that the mindset started to change. So many meetings, so much hand-wringing. When our pearly gates needed to be replaced, we used recycled plastic.
I can't believe this. I'm going to hell, is that it?
Worse, Mr. Baxter. You're going back to Earth. He went Megan. A preacher, before a casket, begins his sermon.
As you can see, this casket does not contain the body of our lost soul, Daniel Morgan. Yes, we are here to mourn his passing, but sadly we do not have the opportunity to say goodbye to the vessel of Daniel. No, Daniel is one of the increasing number of Megans, those unfortunate, misguided souls who believe they can exist solely on what their own bodies can provide. Can I hear an amen?
Amen.
First, Daniel began with his buggers, painstakingly pulling the nostril detritus from its production chamber, occasionally ladened with a nose hair, plucked without ceremony to add some gristle to snotty repast. Can I hear an amen?
Amen.
Next, as you may guess, came the earwax. The soft, mushy, almost ground sugary substance manufactured by eardrums' incessant beat. This, placed on Daniel's tongue, dissolved into a sweet yet salt-like elixir.
Amen.
A lesser-known delight is the crusty secretions at the interstices of the eyeball, otherwise known as ducts. Can I get a quack quack?
Quack, quack, quack.
Daniel found some small satiation there, as our beloved fellow parishioner, his mother Dolores, conveys in a recently self-published biography, there is no I in Megan. On sale in London for $9.95.
Praise be.
Amen.
The body's externalities provided what it could before it could produce no more. Imagine the toes. Once the garden to jam, now bereft of organic delights. The toes were tick-tocks on the clock of Daniel's attempt to stave off starvation.
God bless his soul.
Only days later, the feet came next, and ankles, calves, knees, and before finally the nadir of human self-consumption, the body part that put the can in cannibalism, the thighs.
Amen.
Praise be!
Praise be.
You can fill in the rest. From the pelvis to the torso, that was when Daniel had to turn to devouring his left pinky finger before proceeding to numerous other digits, then the forearm on up, inexorably, to his neck, before consuming the very skull, ending in the tongue, the teeth, and ultimately the swallow reflex, ingesting itself, leaving nothing but a brief but bodacious belt. Can I get an excuse me?
Excuse me.
And so Daniel disappeared. Poof. A young man whose passion for the earth led to his untimely demise.
Bless his soul.
Can I get a digest in peace?
Digest in peace.
Praise be!
Hallelujah.
Family wants me to invite you all to Chick-fil-A on Roosevelt Highway for a post-memorial gathering. And if you don't mind, I'd like to recommend the new bacon and provolone top chicken sandwich with hot lemon peppery juices just dripping from the buns.
Amen.
Let us pray.
Greg and Brenda, strangers to each other, at a bus stop. They check their phones, look down the street for their bus, etc. Greg's stomach growls. Greg's stomach growls again. He shifts positions embarrassed. Then another louder growl from his stomach. He speaks to Brenda.
Must be the barbecue. I ought to know better.
Brenda's stomach growls.
Oh my.
Her stomach growls again, louder.
Spinach artichoke dip always gives me gas.
We're going to start an earthquake.
What is that?
I don't know.
Whatever it is, it just said Greg.
I know. Greg. Yes, yes, this is Greg. Who are you?
Hunger.
It just said hunger.
Feed me. Brenda.
What do you want?
Eat.
You just had dinner.
More. More. Hunger. Hunger. Always hunger. Never enough. Never enough.
Greg and Brenda double over in pain, then fall unconscious. Greg's hunger and Brenda's hunger emerge and greet each other.
Hello. Hello. You must be Brenda's hunger. And you are Greg's hunger. Yes. Pleased to meet you. Likewise. It's nice to emerge from the abdominal cavity. You said it. How are you today? Oh, fine. Hungry as usual. Of course. Never enough. Never enough. We can only be satisfied for a short time. An hour. A minute. A moment. An instant. I could eat a chair.
I could eat a house.
I could eat a bus.
I could eat a zeppelin.
Right. That would be good. And I could eat the moon.
I could eat Jupiter.
I could eat the
I
sun.
could eat space.
I could eat time.
I could eat thought. We could
Yes?
eat them.
They eyed Greg and Brenda, who were beginning to stir.
Tempting.
But risky.
Quite so. We would either satiate ourselves for good.
Or our hunger without a body to define us would be loosed upon the cosmos.
It's staggering to consider. Perhaps, though, without a corporate reality confining us, our hunger would create its own body.
You mean are essentially conceptual because infinite nature might take form?
Yes, take on the form of our need.
Our need.
Our infinite need.
Hunger.
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 Always.
Always.
Hunger.
Never ends.
No, never.
Never ever.
Always never.
Let's eat.
Eat.
Them.
They eat Greg and Brenda. Greg and Brenda disappear. The hungers eye each other.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm.
Not hungry yet.
Nor I.
Not a trace.
Yes. Satiation.
At last.
Yes.
I'm not hungry. But I am thirsty.
Now that you mention it.
Thirst.
Thirst.
Thirst, always thirsty.
What can we drink?
What will satisfy?
Quench.
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 Our thirst.
Brenda's hunger looks at the stage light.
Ah.
Yes.
Ah.
Ah.
The light.
Light.
Yes, the light.
Ah, the light.
The light.
Will do.
For now.
They suck the light from the stage.
Okay. So, who here knows their state representative? Yes?
Oh, Gerald, I didn't know you were brown noser.
Okay. So,
Do you all know how they vote on policy changes for climate change? Anyone?
well,
You're
if-
nodding your head. Do you know?
Are they in favor?
Supportive
of climate change policies?
one of them, yes. All right.
Which one? Name
Yeah,
it.
we're on all things.
Oh.
Okay. Okay. Well,
Is Ron a Democrat or a Republican?
I'm pretty sure he's Republican.
Very cool.
Interesting.
Alright. Well, for those of you who are a little unsure and want to know more, if you go to climatefollies.com, you can find more information. If you want to take out your phones, look at your state representative. You can feel free to do so.
ClimateFollies.com. Take out your phones.
This is pressure.
Yes.
Do it.
Feel
We're
free.
peer pressuring you into
Yes, this is
helping
peer
better
pressure.
the climate.
Yes,
Educate yourselves.
absolutely.
It's a good thing.
What's the Wi-Fi password?
You can use the guest Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Put it right on
Don't
there.
lie to me and say you don't have data. You have data.
You got this.
Yeah. This is important.
Yes.
It's about our planet. Use your data.
Exactly.
Yes. Is it loading for you guys? Lovely.
Good, sometimes the Wi-Fi doesn't work. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes. I know because Family Weekend, we have a lot of people here that are probably from different states and stuff outside of Indiana. So there may be some differences in the votes and the people who are your representatives,
We
but
encourage you to continue to look into this in
Mhm.
your free time and be more aware of what's going on with climate change policy around you.
And think of all state representatives instead of just your own state representative.
And if possible, try and get into contact with your state representative when they're not maybe like at the Capitol and try and like get lunch with them or something and try and convince them to be more supportive of policy changes involving climate change.
it can be really beneficial. And if they can hear from regular citizens who are passionate about this, it can really make a huge difference.
Better than an angry email.
Yes. Don't send us wrong.
And otherwise, we're doomed.
Yeah. Woo. All right.
Love to see it.
1 is leaf-blowing his sidewalk with a leaf blower. Neighbor 2 approaches from the opposite direction. The two move closer and closer to each other until they are blowing onto each other what they are blowing onto each other.
What?
What?
I can't hear.
What are you saying?
What?
B. They stand staring at each other, their leaf blowers blowing deafeningly. They both put safety glasses on and raise their leaf blowers to point more in each other's faces. G-forces of blown air makes cheeks bulge and quiver. 2 raises leaf blower as if a cudgel or sword. 1 follows suit. The 2 begin fencing, with the horrible noise continuing.
What?
What?
This goes on. Neighbor 3 enters from back with a broom. They all look at each other, noise continuing until leaf blowers stand down. Neighbor 3 starts sweeping their sidewalk. 1 and 2 watch them go, then stare at each other. Experience the peace.
What if today were the last sweet day? The final, carefree, still, and beautiful, perfectly temperatured day. A slight breeze tickling your skin. You take your shoes off, wiggle your toes, smile. Tomorrow, the storms arrive. The smoke from the wildfires, the stifling heat, the floods, the strangers fleeing even worse predicaments, and it doesn't stop. The days pile up, each one worse than the day before, tipping points multiplying. No turning back. Weather systems out of control, too large and chaotic to predict, let alone tame. No more sweet days. Of course, it won't happen quite that way. First, we adjust, we adapt. We are human. We get used to things. Second, there will be sweet days. Always. Always. Every once in a while. A sweet day. It will come and pat you on the back like an old forgotten friend, where you remember how sweet days used to be normal, frequent even, unappreciated, or at least often enough to not seem like an aberration. What would it be like to think of this day, October 1st, 2021, as the last sweet day? The last day of sweetness that seems like the norm before the tumult begins? Would it make it sweeter? Might that realization create a sense of gratitude and inspiration for stewardship? Maybe even a bit of anger to think that sweetness might be swept away by a species, corrupt, mindless, ever-growing, bottom line, immediate thinking beast hell-bent on comfort, pleasure, satiation, entitlement. Might that anger lead to action to fight for this sweetness to continue to be handed to others younger, to those not yet born and to their not yet born? Might that anger lead to your own decision to grow in the opposite direction that you've been taught? To shrink, soften, slow? What if today were the last sweet day? Forced sabbatical. Setting, prison. Prisoners A, B, and C sit, eating a meal. A and B are in close proximity, C off to the side. All 3 prisoners have a bracelet on their wrist. Periodically, a guard will walk by. I'm new here? Obviously. They eat. How long have you been in here? As the guard approaches, they quiet and eat. Guard moves away. Originally, my sentence was 3 months, but here we are, well past that. 7 months now. That's awful. You're telling me? I haven't seen my family other than awkward supervised visits, and my lawyer quit.
Or was killed.
You don't know that.
Just saying.
I can't get a clear answer why I haven't heard from her in a few weeks.
Classic murder scenario.
Will you stop? C suddenly farts, interrupting the conversation. Silence. C looks at their bracelet, frowns. What are you in for?
The charges are murky at best. Officially, I'm being detained until my hearing, which keeps getting pushed back. My lawyer has disappeared as well.
Oh my god. They have a lot of theories about all this.
It's my job. Theories.
B suddenly farts, silencing everyone. Just as C did, B glances at their bracelet, frowning.
So let's test my theory. Now, what's your profession?
I'm an epidemiologist?
Boom! Specialty.
Coronaviruses. Johns Hopkins.
Climatologist. MIT.
Evolutionary biologist. Stanford.
Is everyone in this prison?
I'm skeptical, but I can't falsify their theory.
Bullshit! Everyone is in this prison as a scientist, except the guards.
A farts.
Oh, my. I'm sorry.
Check it out.
A doesn't understand. B gestures to the bracelet. A looks at it.
What is this thing?
It's a fart bit.
A absorbs the information, holds up a spoonful of food from their plate. It's beans, of course.
These
It's
are...
all we're fed. Morning, noon, and night. Beans.
The more we fart, the more that our trials get delayed.
What part that even tracks the silence is deadly?
Either we starve or remain here indefinitely.
A panics, stands. B and C gesture for A to sit.
No, this is insane!
B and C force A to sit.
Hey, it's okay. You get used to it. And it's not all that bad. I mean, you don't have to go in any useless meetings and defend your findings to idiots.
Or make sure your research will attract big dollars.
Right? It's kind of a break, really.
Think of it as a forced sabbatical.
Hey, Matt.
A tries to fathom this new reality. B and C return to eating and farting. The farting is not so loud as before, and so we watch as the three stop talking and continue to eat. Periodically, one of them looks to the bracelet, frowns, then keeps eating. This goes on. Kind of peaceful to accept one's fate.
Eat local. 3 corporate executives at a business meeting.
The merger between Brazil and Peru will increase our barrel rate nearly 20% next year.
Excellent. We can move media buys in those countries to emphasize the measly numbers of new jobs and... What else?
How about some meaningless rainforest preservation commitments?
Perfect. Okay. Generate media buys across all the platforms.
Cha-ching!
Shall we fly down there next week?
Oh my, no. Think of the carbon footprint.
Server enters.
Excuse me, lunch is ready. As requested, no element of your lunch will have traveled more than 50 miles to get here.
Gotta watch our food miles footprint.
That's right. Eat local, I say.
Eat local.
Local? Eat.
Server exits.
Next up, permitting in the Arctic. If we don't hurry, Russia's going to kick our ass.
Who knew the Arctic would melt this fast?
Ooh, well, we did.
This keeps me up at night. We can't miss this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
There's still time to snatch up a couple of floundering oil companies.
All right. Put together an acquisition package for our shareholders.
Cha-ching!
Server enters with lunches.
And how are we coming with our project to convince people in the American Midwest that wind turbines cause erectile dysfunction?
The firm we hired paid local actors to testify about the turbine's impact. Powerful performances, not a dry eye in the house.
Nothing sadder than erectile dysfunction.
Cha-ching!
Executives suddenly notice the plastic straws in their drinks.
Whoa, wait, what's this?
We don't want no straws.
No, we refuse them.
Refuse the straw! Refuse the straw! Refuse the straw! Refuse the straw!
Server, terrified, exits. Executives start eating what is revealed as human babies. They laugh and eat, seem more and more like beasts as they eat. Grunt and smile, eyeing each other.
Eat
Eat
local.
local. Biodiversitygram. Coffee shop. 2 people drink coffee, chatting, etc.
Oh, did you hear? Lindsay finally gave birth.
Wow! Seems like she was pregnant for like forever.
I know, nearly 2 years.
So she like had an elephant or something?
Good guess. It is so cute.
Shows phone to 2.
Oh my god, that trunk is adorable. My friend Jillian, remember her? It took almost 3 years for her black alpine salamander to be born.
Wow, but I bet she wasn't as big as Lindsay.
My sister is considering giving birth to a rhino.
Rhinos are so almost yesterday.
So true.
Your sister has always been a do-gooder.
I know, right? But imagine the enormity of it all. At least it's not as long as to carry an elephant.
But the subsidies are bigger with the rhino for sure.
For sure. If you're into the money as motivation thing, which she isn't. Remember when he was about to take on the bat, the kitty hog-nosed bat?
Right, the bumblebee bat.
Exactly. 40-day gestation, it's a snap. My sis was all like, I was doing it for convenience. Like, that's a negative.
Whatever happened with that?
What? Why didn't you tell me? I figured we would get to it sometime today.
When are you due?
They'll induce next Tuesday. You want to be there?
Oh, you know how I feel about that.
That's okay. I'll send you a photo.
Want me to post on Biodiversitygram?
Please, and share the hell out of it.
Dinner week after next at the sushi place is on you.
They toast their coffees.
Career day. School children are gathered, being disrupted. Teacher stands before them, claps hands in a rhythm that the children mimic until order is restored.
Thank you, children. As you know, today is Career Day, and we have a very special guest to talk to you about lots of career ideas. Please welcome Mr. Chuck Deptford from a local environmental group.
Children applaud. Mr. Deptford enters.
Good morning, children. I'm honored to visit your school. So, how old are you all? 10?
I'm 11.
I'm 46.
Ah, yes. So, I don't think you're too young to be thinking about your future career choices, especially given the climate emergency. Okay, let's begin with me. When I was your age, I was thinking I might like to be a musician or an actor, but I ended up pursuing a degree in political science and marketing, a double major.
Children squirming and noisy. Teacher growing impatient.
So, I combined those degrees to run my organization. Okay, I'm happy to answer any questions about my job or to address ideas about other career path ideas, whatever you'd like.
Child raises her hand. Mr. Deptford nods to her.
Since I was 5, I wanted to be a doctor.
That's a fine career idea. What's your name?
Alice?
What kind of doctor would you like to be, Alice?
My mom's a cardiologist. So maybe that?
Sure, but given the likelihood of increased infection disease, perhaps you could consider that.
Really?
Sure, I mean, COVID-19 was just a drop in the bucket of what's to come. What about you?
Me? My dad's an accountant.
Let's brainstorm some other ideas, shall we? I mean, just for fun. What about firefighter? We know those mega fires in the West are only going to get worse. Heck, there's even wildfires in the Arctic.
I'm scared of fire.
Exactly. Face your fears. That's how you grow. How about you?
Well, my mom's a chef.
Lucky you. Given the collapse of our food systems due to extreme weather, climate migration, global plagues, starvation is inevitable. Being creative at food is going to be a sure winner when it comes to a career. And it might just keep you from being one of the eaten.
The children are beginning to get upset, creating disruption.
I'm so sorry. They're usually better behaved.
I fear it's my fault. This is very difficult subject matter for children, for anyone really. How can we soothe them?
I find a story always helps.
May I?
Teacher thinks a moment, then nods yes. Children settle in for a story. As children often do, they will soon fall asleep to this story.
Once upon a time, children, stories had a beginning, middle, and end. This storytelling structure, at least in Western narratives, provided a stable, predictable, and comforting scaffolding to drop all sorts of tales of heroism upon. This structure allowed for twists and turns, and of course, extraordinary suspense as to the fate of the protagonist or protagonists. Still, in the majority of time, the so-called 11th hour, some force, action, or deus ex machina intervened to save the day and preserve not only the lives of the protagonists, i.e., the good guys, but the structure of storytelling itself. Now, children, The climate catastrophe is going to disrupt and possibly destroy all of that. At this juncture, there appears to be no 11th hour intervention to save us from the physics of our amplified weather system.
The children are asleep by now.
Point being, the storytelling narrative is also analogous to our perception of time. It having a past, present, and future, beginning, middle, and end, people are forever calling upon the corporate execs and politicians with whom they collude to be on the right side of history, but this is a specious entreaty. There's no right or wrong side of history to place oneself. The science is telling us, if there will be no future, then there was no past. There is only the now, the present, in which to experience this catastrophe.
Mr. Duckboarding teacher, look at the children sleeping and then look at each other and smile.
That sure did the trick. You can come back anytime.
A fire. Two actors walking along the sidewalk suddenly stop in alarm.
Oh my God, look!
That house is on fire!
Oh jeez. Oh jeez, what do we do?
Panicked, they look desperately around, pat their pockets, etc. John realizes they have a squirt gun and start shooting water at the fire.
Yes!
The two watch as John keeps squirting the water.
Not sure this is working.
It's not going to get the job done, that's for sure.
At least I'm trying.
Sally, inspired, spits at the fire.
There!
John keeps shooting squirt gun. Sally keeps spitting. John runs out of water. John joins Sally in spitting.
I'm dry.
Me too.
Sally whips out their phone.
What are you doing?
Calling that Mexican place we love. We'll get some food delivered, really get our juices going. What would you like?
A burrito, duh. Oh, and hold the tomatoes. No nightshade for me, please. No peppers either. Acid reflux.
Poor thing. Wilting flower.
Shut up. What are you getting?
Huevos rancheros.
John punches in the order. They stare at the fire. Sally, suddenly inspired, motions for John to join as they shoot some selfies with the fire in the background.
When's the food come?
15 minutes.
Poop. What do we do?
Distressed, they ponder. John has the idea to blow out the fire much as one might blow out candles on a birthday cake. Sally joins in, blowing as well. They assess.
Honestly, I can't tell if we're making it better or worse.
Me neither.
They blow some more. Others arrive, check out what's happening, carrying their leaf blowers. There's hubbub as they too try and blow on the growing fire.
We are making it worse, I think.
Shoot. Well, we didn't start the fire.
Right? Why should we be working so hard to put it out?
Everyone agrees. Lots of hubbub about this as they are mad as hell about having to work so hard on putting out the fire. I am angry.
Ashamed.
Furious.
Terrified.
Bereft.
There isn't a word.
There aren't words.
What can you call a handful of CEOs and politicians who colluded in the 60s, 70s, and 80s to lie about human impact on the climate?
They knew.
They knew.
But didn't do anything.
No, wait, they did not do anything. They actively lied about it.
Never doubt a small number of greedy people can ruin the world.
The coal industry
Angry,
knew. They
ashamed,
knew by the mid-1960s that fossil fuels would warm the planet, but they buried their research and started to lie about it.
Lie about it. Never doubt a small number of greedy people can ruin the world.
It wasn't just the coal companies. It was the car companies too.
General Motors
Lie
and
about
Ford
it.
knew by the 1960s how their products would
Furious.
contribute to global warming.
Bereft.
Just like coal, they studied the science, then spent their time and money creating doubt.
Lying about it.
Exxon knew. In the 1970s, Exxon studied climate change with Mobil, Amoco, Phillips, Texaco, Shell, Sunoco, Soyo, along with the American Petroleum Institute.
They studied climate impacts, then shifted the funding to propaganda.
Lying.
Lying. Lying.
Still lying. In 2021, an Exxon lobbyist admitted Exxon was still lying about it.
Bereft.
A legal brief states, from 1998 through 2019, Exxon spent at least $37 million funding 69 organizations that denied and discredited climate science.
Never doubt a small number of greedy people can ruin the world.
Coal, oil, and cars spent money and spent our lives.
Our lives.
our children's lives, our grandchildren's lives,
and all the creatures of planet Earth.
A delivery person, a small bag of food in hand from the Mexican restaurant that was ordered earlier, arrives.
Order for 1 huevos rancheros and 1 burrito. Hold the tomatoes and peppers.
They all hold out their arms to the delivery person. Too little food for too many people.
Day of July or
Last
August?
Saturday.
Oh, Saturday.
We have worked on the show for less than a week.
Isn't that amazing? We started like 6 days ago or something. You all are fantastic.
Thank you.
I'm Jim, I wrote the play, and I'm glad you all are here, and I usually run when talkbacks happen, because I don't want to talk about what I experienced when I see something. But this is a different sort of scenario. This is the workshop production of a brand new show. We had a show at the Indie Fringe in August and September, and then this was immediately, thanks to Kieran, this was immediately taken over to Butler for the stage reading that you've seen. So it's really great for me as a playwright to see it in these different forms, because this is still in development stage. It's just the second production. So any kind of feedback that you have today will be great. That's why I brought this. But also just maybe some of the feelings that you had while watching it, because I have a lot of mixed feelings or different feelings when I see it. But shall we introduce everybody real quickly? Go ahead and start.
Hey,
Yeah.
all right. Hi, I'm Olive. What all do you want me to say?
I don't know.
I'm a first year here at Butler. I use they, them pronouns, just for clarification. Okay.
Hi, I'm Tegan. I'm also first year. I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Emily. I'm a sophomore and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Amelia. I'm a sophomore. I use she, her pronouns. I'm majoring in arts administration and theater.
I'm Maddie, I'm a senior, and I use she, her pronouns.
And you met me, I'm Jim, and Jim rhymes with him. He, him.
And I'm Heidi. I use she, her. I am a dance movement therapist. I'm a dear and old friend of Jim's and have a deep interest in what happens in our bodies when we face trauma and how we use our bodies to be a part of the world and express ourselves, and also how we experience things through our bodies. So I'm really curious to hear what it was like for our performers, and also for you all to hear what it was like to receive this. So I'm really excited to be a part of this talk back. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Taylor. I'm a sophomore and I use any pronouns.
Hi, I'm Ellery. I'm also a sophomore, and I also use she, her pronouns.
Great. Kevin, how many people are on our live streaming this?
We have 5 right now.
5! Oh my God, that's amazing. Hello, live streamers.
Hi, live streamers.
Welcome. Where are they? Is that right there? I'm sure watching is Raphael Schwartzman, who directed the Fringe show here in Indianapolis, now living in Philadelphia. So, graduate of Butler, Raphael. All right, so let's start with you all, okay? So we could talk about this internally quite a lot. And we did a little bit, especially in the beginning, sort of talked about what appears to be a completely insurmountable problem that people have created.
Seriously, don't be shy. Jim would love to hear feedback.
So I'll give a little more direct question.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what was it like, do you remember the moment when you first laughed during this piece? Do you remember that edge of finding this funny? Because I think we're playing with something here. Jim has created, with the care of these actors and actresses, a moment. Can anybody speak to that place of finding it okay to laugh?
Y'all were laughing, so.
Say your name.
I'm Alton.
Hi, Alton.
He is pronouns. And my favorite part, or the part I first laughed at, was the hunger part, where there was the stomachs, yes, having a nice conversation.
So that was a way into the show. Do you remember how it felt to be watching before that?
Yes,
Were you afraid to laugh at all, knowing that climate change is like not funny?
I was.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
What's your name?
Okay, I'm Kat. I use she, her pronouns. And I think, like, when it comes to, like, trauma and, like, problems people go through and whatnot, there's, like, a line where it's, like, if you go through it, it's understandable that you might use laughing and, like, jokes with it as a coping mechanism. And I think because climate change is something that affects all of us, it kind of feels like more socially acceptable, I guess, or more okay to laugh at the play because it's something you also experience. So that might chime into just kind of like not maybe laughing right away, but then kind of recognizing, well, okay, like I'm also experiencing this, like it's okay to find this funny. So.
Yes, it's a collective experience, isn't it?
Yep.
Who else would like to share? That's a great question, right?
My name is Karen, she, her, and I think one of the most interesting things is we kind of experience the full gamut of emotion. The laughter is absolutely essential, I think, to lighten at times, but there's fear and sadness, and there are times it's just really uncomfortable, like, ugh, almost wanting to squirm in your seat, so you can kind of go from one end of the spectrum to the other, which is, I think, really fascinating when basically just words can cause that.
Thank you, Mom.
You did a lot with no scenery, no sound effects except human produced. That was fairly amazing.
And thank you, Mom.
That girl.
I agree. agree. I think that Jim did an incredible job of writing an incredible piece of satire. And like, satire does make you uncomfortable because it's commenting on the state of the world as we know it, as we actively live in it. But it was just so much fun to be a part of the show and to like really help him understand. Like, you're still learning about the piece. It's a new thing we're working on to help you like get a better view of it. Such a fun experience for us.
So
Yeah.
terrifying that it's you can only laugh.
It really is
Yeah.
scary. But also it was scary to have the playwright in the room.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're afraid to go,
It's,
"That's not for him."
it's always like a really unique experience to like be working with the playwright directly and like trying to do a production at the same time, but it's also just really insightful to kind of learn about the thought process that Jim had going throughout this piece, like as he's been developing and stuff and being able to contribute to it over time has been like really awesome.
Can we get an applause for Jim?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
I want to do that.
I have one question.
Yes.
So, I know you all have been working on this for a relatively short period of time. Is it always done with like all black set, all black costumes? Is that sort of by design or like because of the setup here?
So the company that this is through, I don't know. It's a student group called Sandbox, and this is the way we do our shows. So
Okay.
this is like the kind of bare bones, like staged reading, we call them. And so that was this group's choice. Yeah.
What is
Not
it
a
like
public
in the other one?
Well, the Climate Follies at the Fringe was fully produced with, you know, the actors had memorized their lines. They had props, so it was a very different experience.
I only ask because I figured it was probably like a production choice for this, but I think the cool thing, almost having like a military aspect of like everybody looks as similar as possible, is it sort of takes the individual, like, oh, I'm so special, I can do whatever, out of it, and I think that's like an interesting choice to play with. Because I felt very called out as a Jeep owner, as I absolutely should. I need to get a better car. But I think it made me think about how I think, like, well, you know, I have a Jeep, but I like drive a lot for work and I need something to keep me safer, and like I'm afraid of, you know, dying individually, like if I'm in a, you know, bad car accident, which is all true. But like in the big picture, you know, who cares? And when you're thinking about like, you know, what Pearly Gates show and sort of this guy, like by all intents and purposes, had it on a very individual family level scale, lived a wonderful life, you know, the club gave him an award, he was a great dad to his kids, but like, I think we think about that impact on the world a lot, and not necessarily like, what did I do that impacted, you know, this entire nation, you know, that might be underwater right now. And I think a lot of us like, just don't take much responsibility for our own climate impact, and maybe if we saw ourselves a little bit more as like, just one of the many people, you know, all look the same in the big picture, and individual differences don't matter so much, like we would take a bit more responsibility for the impact we have on everybody.
And thank you, Kinsey.
Get your mom too?
I know, but the more
this
family is really carrying our weight right now.
No, you
so
don't.
y'all-
That was a joke.
I'm just kidding.
Appreciate you sharing. Yes.
So, Heidi, as a, what's your eco therapist or?
So I have a heart for that work. I'm not trained there. We have another dear friend who's a part of the team. Jim is always stirring up some creative goods. So yeah, we're working to use this work with a couple of therapists to expand the project, to consider how we can affect the audience and the staff and what we can create on a big picture. So, yes, let me answer whatever you have for me.
Well, I was just wondering, like, the climate crisis is such a huge, taxing sort of idea for a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people in this room, the whole reason we're here is because we're like-minded people concerned about this, but how do we as individuals deal with the pressure of a climate crisis without losing hope
or turning in on ourselves, or just being like, well, there's no reason for anything if the world's gonna die in 50 years.
7.
Well, who knows at this point?
It's a great question, and obviously everybody's thinking about that, right? We're talking about the numbers here. Yeah, yeah, so.
You know, I have a comment, just reading the backs of some of your computers.
Yes, good observation, yes.
I'm so glad that this generation is aware of so many issues that we're facing. But the other thing is, for me, the saddest moment in the play was when the kids are first disturbed by the conversation that the teacher's having, and then she tells a story which is really scary, but they go to sleep. Because I was expecting them to get more agitated and run out of the room screaming, and then when she said they had all fallen asleep, it's like we get immune to this stuff. We know about it, but we sort of fall asleep. Like, who is your representative? I don't know. You know, what is their stance? Probably not as good as it should be, but we sort of all fall asleep. And the fact that children could is really scary.
Because the kids are what's gonna save us, because they're the ones who are gonna be aware, alert, informed, and it's the attitude about, you know, how much difference is it gonna make since we're all gonna die anyway. Teddy Roosevelt spoke somewhere sometime, and this guy came up later and said, "Mr. President, I'm just an ordinary citizen, what can I do?" And he said, "You do what you can with what you have, where you are, but you do it." And that's what we have to do, because if enough of us do that, then it does matter. But it's the kids. They're the ones. They're gonna do it.
How do you feel about that, kids?
It's terrifying.
It's a lot.
No,
It's
for
a
us,
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Fixing what they
fixing
broke.
Yeah, the kids are pissed. I mean, my whole day job is about what you just said. The kids are pissed. They feel like we messed it up. My generation absolutely messed it up. And
But not
now it's on them.
willfully, just indifferently. You know, it's like,
They don't care.
Well, but I mean, I think the last play, you know, we've known for 40, 50 years what the science was. And the corporations knew what the science was. And this is well documented now by great investigative journalism that they just flat out. That's the thing that pisses me off.
One of my favorite ones was the one where we do sit around there, the table scene, whenever they're eating dead babies and talking about
that was
their
like-
carbon footprint.
Eat local was a lovely piece.
They know. They've always known, and there's a lot of things that prove that big oil, big pharma, all of those absolute mongrels knew what they were doing the entire time.
Yeah, and you hear a lot about the idea of greenwashing now, and like companies trying to seem like they're more like better than they really are, where you'll see like greenwashing if they'll like have more like cardboard containers and stuff, but then you open it and it's like there's just plastic, and it's just like it shows that they know, and they still actively know, and they're just trying to put up a facade to make it seem like they can.
And the really irritating thing is that you can only do what you can do. Like we've talked about, like you said, quoting Teddy Roosevelt, do what you can with what you have where you are. But if these companies would actually make a change, it would have such a more, just a bigger impact on climate change.
Or politicians, that's why you gotta
Politicians, yes, climatefollies.com.
think of the improvement in the environment during the pandemic when people were quarantined. The canals in Venice cleared up. The ozone layer got better, and that's just simply by people.
Factories shut down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quit driving. You know, because we were forced to, but there was a positive environmental effect from all that.
Wasn't that enjoyable to soften and slow down? I know that may be inappropriate for some of you who may have lost loved ones due to COVID, but it was also, there were silver linings that to your point. Karen, did you have a question?
Oh, Raphael actually had a question.
What did Raphael want to ask?
He wants to know where did the last sweet day come from? He liked it.
Oh, that's new with this reading, and Well, I think that question kind of speaks to the general conversation that we're having. Because as someone who thinks about this every single moment of the day, and I dream about it, I have conversations with movie stars. I dream about talking to Trump about it, who thinks this is a hoax.
Hello, Walls.
I had a dream about Governor Holcomb a couple days ago. Really nice man in my dream. I actually think he's a nice man not in my dream, but he was a really nice man in my dream. So I think about this all the time. I don't know how to write about this without being sanctimonious and sentimental, without making myself cringe. So I feel like the humor as a platform to earn, almost to give myself the permission to occasionally step out, right? So Raphael, I was reading a book by Dave Eggers called They Shall Know Our Velocity. If you don't know Dave Eggers, he's an extraordinary novelist and nonfiction writer. And something about that book just inspired me to want to choose the moment in that play to just open my heart. I mean, literally, this has been the sweetest week of all time, hasn't it? Beautiful. It's just been gorgeous, and I feel like my panic and anxiety and sadness around the loss also heightens my sense of appreciation and emboldens my desire to work even harder for the kids. So that was like a moment, Raphael, where, and as you and I talked about, the second half of the play, we should earn the opportunity to open our hearts. That's what the career day thing is. And honestly, I want the kids to fall asleep during that, because I don't want them to know that we've destroyed storytelling itself. The structure of storytelling is disrupted by that, because we're all just walking around in this illusion that something's going to save us, something's going to save us, and it's just not going to happen. I don't want the kids to hear that part, not the 10-year-olds. You all can say that. What are you two people thinking?
Not to single you out, but
we're singling you out.
Well, I just wanted to know particularly what the He Went Vegan play, what impact that had on Iris, who's been a vegan since she was born. No, I'm kidding you. You don't have to have any
I don't have
input.
thoughts about that play specifically.
Okay, I just didn't know what you all were thinking.
Not to keep piggybacking on the humor and our conversations with that, but you, as you were writing this, did you always intend to use humor as a way to kind of ease it, or did you find yourself almost needing to do it as you?
No, my whole life I've used humor to relieve anxiety. I was like the comic in my family. My dad had MS, and when I was very little, and that was back in the day where nobody knew what it was, and it was very scary. And I had proclivities toward wanting to be funny, but it went into hyperdrive when I was little because I felt like I had to relieve the tension in my family household. And it was also because it was also a way to be, somebody at school because I didn't have much else going for me. So it's always been a natural aspect.
Well, I think that kind of ties up into your question of like, how do you deal with this, like mentally and emotionally, even, do you want to speak to that too?
Well, I think just as a case in point, that we all have mechanisms for surviving hard things, and that it would be interesting to talk to the performers, because they spend so much time with this material, to say, well, what did you do during this week? Did you find you needed to be outside more? Did you have to call your best friends? Did you eat more kale? What are our ways of taking care of ourselves? Because when we're talking about, like, we say grounding, get grounded. But when you're talking about the ground not being there for you, then where do you find that place? How do you be able to engage humor? How do you keep coming back to what you know you need to do to keep going?
Yeah, that's a great question. What do you Who wants to share on that?
Anybody notice?
As I was like reading this content, as we were going through it, I felt, I wouldn't say numb to it, but for years now, I've been exposed to it in the news. Every time I open up a news app or something, I see something about issues with big corporations or something like that impacting how our planet's functioning, you know? And so the content didn't feel new to me, but the idea of the humor kind of helped it, like us, like I felt us as a cast were able to just kind of like, we're all very like-minded in the way that this is a serious issue, and we all feel very passionately about it. And I think kind of the humor aspect, if anything, helped and like made it feel like we've been exposed to this all our life in very, very serious tones. So it kind of felt, I don't know how to explain it. Yes, yes, yes.
Fresh.
And it helps, I feel like it gave me like a fresh perspective in it, where my passion for it, like advocating for it and stuff, because you know, sometimes it does get exhausting constantly hearing about it and seeing about it and trying to speak on it. And I feel like this specifically, like even said, gave like kind of that fresh feeling to bring it back and bring that passion back.
Commenting on something almost completely different, but also almost the same. It's interesting to do this show as a college student because our lives are so go, go, go that like probably the last thing on most of our minds is carbon footprint, how much waste are we producing, whatever, as we're leaving the Atherton with our to-go boxes and Starbucks with our cups and cups and cups and cups. And it's just everything is like so fast-paced that you almost forget until you remember. And then it's a hyper-awareness and you're like, damn, I'm the problem. You know?
And also to speak to that, not only do we, sometimes it's not thought about, sometimes it is thought about, it's just really,
It's
really
so
hard
hard.
as a college student to be able to do that, especially when you don't have a stove or an oven that you can like make your own meals to cut down on waste some. And so you're getting all this like to-go food with packaged, like heat up microwave meals. So that makes it really hard
Well,
too.
hold on. I thought there was a new policy in your cafeteria this year where you're given 2 boxes, 2
They're always out.
reusable
Yeah,
boxes.
it's working some, but there's days where they don't have any left, and other people have to return theirs, and then they go back to paper ones. So it's a gamble. We're only like allowed to care about the environment like half the time.
Pretty much.
And it's really common, like human beings, to go from those swings of sort of like shut down from it to hyper aware. Like that is, and the arts are so critical. I mean, I have my own perspective about the power of humor and the power of the arts, and so I'm so happy to see theater. They're making theater, you know, because we have to tell it in a way that it can be heard.
Alton, you had something earlier.
Thank you, Taylor.
What are your pronouns again?
Sorry, my pronouns are he, him. I'm a communications major. My question about the first play or the first scene when you're moving the chairs, I did not know what was going on. Did someone explain to me what was going on?
But you have to leave now.
Yeah.
Bye.
Get out.
Wow.
No, just kidding. Like you didn't get it. I didn't rate for me. I was confused the first time, but it's basically that's what it's about. We're numb to the fact that what's going on. Their ship is sinking, and they'd rather focus on if the chair is in the right place or not.
And I think one of the issues with it not like reading well is the fact that it is a staged reading.
Yeah.
If you actually had deck chairs and you weren't moving them in between like
And you have the
this
sirens going off.
small of a
constantly,
space,
and the
it would
probably play better.
yeah.
So rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. That's
Just something
Yeah.
something to focus on that you can actually control.
We're not alone.
Think about how there'll be like these petty arguments about like
plastic straws versus like reusable straws.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, whole areas are on fire and there's all this terrible stuff going on. And we aren't really thinking big picture. Because
At
you
the
do
same
what
time-
sort of what it's meant.
Yeah,
to
you
be.
do what you can do.
At the same time, they're changing straws and containers and whatever, and making them biodegradable and whatever, so progress is being made, and we can't, we can't say, well, it's not gonna make any difference anyway, so, live it up.
Well, straws is
Changes
something,
are coming and progress is happening, it just isn't.
Well,
very
I
fast.
focused on straws for about 2 years of the work that I do with Earth Charter Indiana. And, I actually built a straw bale out of 9,000 straws. And I wanted to do it in a low carbon intensive way, so I would go to restaurants, they would collect used straws. Okay, gross. And I would either take the bus or I would ride my bike because I wasn't going to go drive my car to pick up these used straws. And then I would use water from my rain barrel. Okay, I did use Dawn because Dawn saves animals' lives. And I would wash the straw and then I molded it into a straw bale and then I took it around to schools. And then we started a campaign where we go around, we took the straw bale all through downtown and we got restaurants to sign a contract that said, we're not gonna hand out straws unless asked. Because that's only as far as you can go in America, at least in Indiana, right?
Or
But-
at least right now.
Yeah.
But, I did this exercise with these Montessori kids, they're like 4 and 5 years old. It's like, who really needs a straw? It's like people with a disability. Great, they get a straw. Astronauts. Great. That's 7 more people. And then the rest of the straws, go away, straw. There's so much we think we need that we don't need. And straws are in that category for me. Plus, biodegradable stuff doesn't actually biodegrade unless it's placed into a landfill with the right composition, the right chemicals. So it's not necessarily even greenwashing, except there's no actual system by which these things can biodegrade.
And for me, the deck chairs thing is not even about like, oh, the little steps don't matter. It's just the need and the want and the desire to focus on something completely different as your world melts around you.
Yeah, just as long
The
as
ship
you
is going down, and that's rather than do that, they're worried about the chairs. So it's not the baby steps, because the baby steps we try, things are changing and things are working and other things aren't. But whenever we just completely ignore it, that's the problem. Yeah.
Shannon, can I ask you, you saw both versions. You saw the stage version of the deck chairs. I'm so glad you brought this up because the director and I really had a difference of interpretation of how that show would work. And I know it's hard to see with the reading, but you saw both versions, and what do you think?
Well, certainly it is easier, of course, with full-fledged produced shows to pick up on such subtleties that are harder in stage readings too. But in the Fringe show, there were just 2 people on stage in deck chairs with sunglasses on, fanning themselves, people screaming and running behind them, a person holding like a fake baby being like, my baby, like freaking out, that kind of stuff, while these 2 people are sitting in deck chairs like, oh, what's all this crying about? Oh, whatever, haha, this is stupid, like, it doesn't matter, we're just enjoying this beautiful day, while people behind them are screaming and crying for their lives. As a captain is trying really hard to get people to care. There is a hole in our hull, and they're like, oh, that's poetic. And so it was really, really wonderful to see in person like that, because, I mean, of course, we humans can only imagine so much, but the actors of the Fringe were, and all of these actors as well, amazing.
Yeah, if I could, because this is maybe important just to me at least. The interpretation of the version that you saw was almost a decision made by the people to ignore that climate change is impacting people right now, this instant. It's almost like a choice of privilege, entitlement. The way I intend to play is the way that was done tonight, which is that we cannot stop ourselves. Everything that we do just makes this worse. And to start the play off with that level of despair and surrender, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, having watched this tonight and hearing your feedback and other people, I don't know if it's like, if we should start off with that much despair. Because it's almost like this OCD, we can't help ourselves at this point. We are scooting the deck chairs on the Titanic, and we've been doing that for such a long time. It's driving me crazy that we've done it for so long, right?
Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, for me, like, I kind of found vaccines, like, a lot of parallels with what's happening with, like, the virus and everything, people just not really caring, and along with just so many other problems, more than just climate change, so I felt like it was kind of, like, really broad, but in a good way, you know, like, it kind of was eye-opening and what it felt like. A lot of people choose to not care or say, oh, this isn't affecting me right now, so it doesn't really matter.
I'm getting a signal that we are out of time, so either
Thank you.
final thoughts or anything?
Well, I kind of want to know what the actors who immersed themselves this week in this, do you have any thoughts about what you might like to do? I know how busy you are, but is there, has anything emerged as a kind of an action that you're interested in taking that I could support?
Talking to our local representatives.
Yes.
Well, I tell you what, that's powerful. You know, Indiana politicians, and some of you are from other states, but the only thing they're really afraid of is that these bright, amazing people are going to flee and go somewhere else to some more progressive thing. So you do have a lot of power. But this week, the University of Minnesota declared they were divesting from fossil fuel investments in their endowment. And that is happening. It just happened at Harvard a couple weeks ago. So this is a movement of people just saying, I'm not going to, and for anybody in this room that has money somewhere, like in investments or whatever, you can do clean, green investments. And maybe they're complicated like straws too. You know, I mean, I don't know if how perfect that can be, but money is really important. And actually, the market for investing in fossil fuels is really deteriorating quickly. It's going to be too expensive. It's just the trend in most of the world. So that's one powerful thing that could be galvanized. I don't know what the climate for that at Butler might be, but that's an example of a sort of a higher level of action. And most of you are freshmen and sophomores, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
And it takes years for a project like that to.
Let's go, guys.
Right, let's hear it.
Think of South Africa, you know, all that divestment.
Yeah.
And that's how things changed.
Right.
Big change.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out.
Thank you. Good job, guys.
Thank you.